touching your toes. It is what you learn on your way down. Through practice comes yoga. Through yoga comes knowledge. Through knowledge, love, and through love is bliss. Education is the assimilation of ideas, not the dissemination of data. It is the process of character building, strengthening mind, and fabricating mindfulness. Mindfulness is a way of being, and yoga is at its core. Education needs to be enriched with values, and the spiritual dimension of yoga is about the development of values. Namaste. I, Dimple Pradhan, and my co-host, Harshvardhan Jhaveri, are humbled with honor to welcome all of you, respected dignitaries, guests, committee members, governing body of Kaivalyadhama, learned scholars, teachers, the entire school body, parents, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the National Conference 2023 Integration of Yoga in School Education. Furthering Swami Kaivalyadhama ji's ideologies of introducing yogic values in children at an early age, the conference will discuss methods and measures to promote the integration of yoga in education nationwide and to contribute to the overall well-being and holistic development of students.
नमस्ते और आप सभी का विद्यालय शिक्षा में योग का समावेश इस राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। विचार की शक्ति व्यापक रूप से ज्ञात है, लेकिन शायद ही कभी व्यक्त की जाती है। हम आज यहाँ एक बार फिर से इस विषय की दिशा में विचारों को विकसित करने, निर्देशित करने और वास्तविक रूप देने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं। विचार की शक्ति तरंगे उत्पन्न करती है जो ब्रह्मांड में फैल जाती है। विद्यालय शिक्षा में योग का समावेश की लहर सिर्फ भारत में ही नहीं बल्कि पूरे विश्व में फैले, ये हमारी कामना है। कहा जाता है कि आश्रम संस्थापक का शरीर होता है। स्वामी कुवलयानंद जी ने कैवल्यधाम की नींव रखी और उसमें प्राण भरे, और यही वो भूमि है जिस पर वे यहाँ खड़े थे, जिस पर हम अभी सब उनके दृष्टिकोण को जारी रखने के लिए आज एकत्रित हुए हैं। स्वामी जी ने कैवल्यधाम का अन्वेषण और पूर्वानुमान की दिशा को स्पष्ट रूप से परिभाषित किया। उन्होंने कहा, कैवल्यधाम का मुख्य प्रयास मानव मन को वैज्ञानिक रूप से जांचना है ताकि बाह्य और आंतरिक अंतरिक्षों को जीतने के प्रयास अंत में मिले और ब्रह्मांड के रहस्य का समाधान किया जा सके। गुरु परंपरा को नमन करते हुए परमहंस माधवदास जी महाराज, स्वामी कुवलयानंद जी, स्वामी दिगंबर जी और स्वामी महेशानंद जी की कृपा से यह सम्मेलन सफल हो। It is rightly said, prayer is not an asking, it is a longing of the soul. As we set start to the day, following the tradition of Kaivalyadhama Yoga Institute, let us seek blessings, guidance, and wisdom from the Supreme Power. We will begin with the Shanti Mantra, requesting one and all to sit upright, taking a moment to connect with your breath. Omkar. सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। कुछ क्षण के लिए प्रार्थना के अर्थ पर ध्यान करें। हे परमेश्वर, हम शिष्य और शिक्षक दोनों की एक साथ रक्षा करें, दोनों का एक साथ पोषण करें। हम दोनों साथ मिलकर महान ऊर्जा और शक्ति के साथ कार्य एवं विद्या प्राप्ति का सामर्थ्य प्राप्त करें। हमारी बुद्धि तेज हो, हम एक दूसरे से ईर्ष्या न रखें।
Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to walk you through the day's events planned bearing the theme of the conference in mind. We have a thrilling day planned for our guests with 1 plenary session and 3 panel discussions, followed by a workshop and a short cultural program for all to enjoy and make the most of the day. Let us now begin with the first plenary session. With origins that can be traced to ancient India over 5,000 years ago, yoga today has its seeds sown deep, far and wide across the international borders. Yoga has evolved over time and now embraces new age, diverse interpretations. However, continuing still to be the bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary insights. On this note, we now proceed with the first plenary session, Yoga over 100 years, Ancient Knowledge and the Modern Perspective. I take this moment to invite Dr. Rajan Velukar, Vice Chancellor of the Atlas Skill Tech University, Mumbai, Chairperson of the session, Srimati Manisha Verma, and our plenary speakers, Dr. Shirley, Dr. Srijan Singh, to please come up on stage and light the lamp. I now request Dr. Rajan Velukar to please felicitate the participants of the first plenary session. Our first speaker is Dr. Shirley. Dr. Shirley is a research advisor at the Patanjali Research Foundation in Haridwar, India, where she directs research on the physiological and therapeutic effects of yoga. She has published more than 200 research articles, 7 books, and 17 book chapters, and has received awards from the Templeton Foundation and the Indian Council of Medical Research. Dr. Tellis received a Fulbright Fellowship to study neuroimaging in meditators. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am.
Our next speaker is Dr. Srijan Singh, an author, public speaker, education innovator, and social entrepreneur. He is an IIMA gold medalist and has worked as advisory to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the 11th President of India. Currently, he is the CEO and co-founder of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Center, a non-profit organization working on integrated missions across multiple dimensions in an effort to continue on the vision of Kalam sir. We welcome you.
The session is being chaired by Srimati Manisha Verma, Principal Secretary and Managing Director of Maharashtra State Financial Corporation. Madam is a seasoned Indian Administrative Services officer and an alumnus of Harvard Kennedy School and IDS Sussex. She has held prominent positions in various sectors. Her dedication to sustainable, inclusive, and innovative programs has earned her numerous accolades. To have with us the presence of such a strong personality is an honor. We welcome you, ma'am. I thank Dr. Rajan for doing the honors. We now hand over the proceedings to the chairperson of the session. Over to you, ma'am.
आदरणीय मंच और यहाँ बैठे सभी प्रज्ञावान प्रेक्षक जो हैं उनको मेरा सादर नमन. I feel indeed humbled and blessed and very fortunate to be part of this centenary celebration of Kaivalyadhams and moderate this panel discussion with such erudite scholars as Shirley ji and Srijan ji. The theme of today's session is Yoga over 100 years, the ancient knowledge and the modern perspective. Before we begin today's deliberation, let me pay my heartfelt pranams to Swami Kaivalyadhama and all the sages, scholars, and masters who have created this body of knowledge on yoga, which is a unique gift to humanity. Historically, yoga got some systematic body of knowledge between 6th century AD and 15th century, though there are mention of it in ancient scriptures, in Upanishads, in Puran, as well as in Bhagavatam. The earliest treatises is obviously Patanjali Yoga Sutra and Hat Yog Pradipika, and later Hat Ratnavali. We also find some global references of yoga in Central Americas, in the St. Augustine province, where we hear about stone images depicting some yoga practices. Heterodox sects or religions like Buddhism and Jainism also influenced yoga with detailed scientific understanding of working of mind, importance of breath and meditation. However, in Kaivalyadham, we follow the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Ashtanga Marga, and the fundamental principles, the emphasis on yam and niyam, which form the basis of the ethical base of yoga, which is ahimsa, Satya Aste Brahmacharya Aparigraha, and Niyam, shorts, Santosh, austerity, Swadhyay, and Ishwar Pranidhan, which is surrender to the Almighty. The Heart Yoga Pradipika emphasizes more on purity of body and creating an ecosystem, a physical ecosystem for working on the mind and for the flow of energy upwards to attain a state of Kaivalya. Whatever may be the text or whatever may be the different forms of yoga that now different schools propagate, the common principles, if we have to cull them out, is a wish for well-being or youthfulness, and in advanced levels, development of psychic powers of Siddhi, awakening of Kundalini, and attaining superconsciousness or Samadhi. Today, yoga has gone global with celebration of International Day of Yoga, and the new education policy, which is the focus of this national conference, mentions integration of yoga in school education. We can say that scalability is not an issue with yoga, with institutions like Kaivalyadhama providing thousands of trainers and similar institutions across the country. Yoga is not something which is a very capital intensive, which requires high resources. You need a trained teacher, you need a yoga mat, you need some clean space. And yet, there are challenges in scalability. How do you integrate yoga in school education? As Swamiji said, that yoga has message for body, yoga has message for mind, and also for the soul. So how do we integrate these intrinsic, deeper goals and yogic values apart from teaching certain postures and really taking it to that objective that we seek to, create yogic values among school children and college students? The second challenge that I find about yoga scalability is about the acceptance of yoga, because many religious sects or belief systems are trying to appropriate yoga as their own system, and that can create a sense of exclusion by other sects, and the question of acceptability comes there. Therefore, the second challenge that I see today is कि सब वर्ग में, सब समुदाय, सब धर्म के लिए योग की कैसे स्वीकृति की जाए। और पहला जो प्रश्न था कि योग को व्यावहारिकता और शारीरिक स्तर पर नहीं, अगर उसका अध्यात्म से अगर उसका संगम करना है तो उसको कैसे हम व्यावहारिक स्कूल एजुकेशन में किस तरह से लाएंगे। The third issue about scalability, again, as I said, is how do we bring spirit of collaboration and not competition. Today we find that there are so many different schools of yoga masters, who are now creating a kind of a cult across the country and across the world. So how do we integrate these different and bring a common perspective? Because people will get confused. The educational institutions of what form of yoga to be adopted, and similarly, if there is no consensus doesn't mean that there has to be a strict uniformity, but some kind of common principles, common practices, common protocols. Otherwise, how do you define curriculums in actually integrating yoga in school education and in college institutions? These are some of the fundamental questions I find that I leave today's speakers with and this august audience with to reflect. And I hope that this conference will be very fruitful in finding answers to some of these questions. And now I would just like to say that since we've begun a slightly, we've got late, so I would request our speakers, I would first invite Shirley ji to give a presentation and then followed by Mr. Srijan Pal Singh ji. I would request both of them to stick to, 10 to 12 minutes of their presentations and initial observations. After that, we'll have a round of questions. triggered from their discussion, and then last 10 minutes, we'll open the house for questions from the audience. Thank you.
If it's 10 or 12 minutes, I'll let it be. Cutting short a 20-minute presentation to 10 minutes is never a good idea. So I think I'll waive my presentation and we can go to discussion, unless it's all right to stretch it a little beyond 10. So I think that's the best way to plan. You convey the amount of time in advance. Okay, so it's a good time to have yoga in schools. Why is that so? Well, we need a lot of discipline nowadays. We need it especially so with urban living. With urban living, the support given to school children has diminished, and so they need a lot of support in their schools. Are there enough data to support yoga in schools? Yes. 30 years on, because I first heard about this 30 years ago, there is enough research. And luckily, people are aware about the importance of research. So what are some of the benefits? I'm going to touch on 7 benefits which school children can get. And these benefits have all been worked out in research studies conducted in schools. So that's the beautiful part. Can you actually do research in schools? Yes. Can you monitor the benefits? Yes. So let's see the benefits. Self-regulation. That's the ability to regulate your behavior according to a situation and be effective. Let me give you 2 examples of school children's need. Let's imagine a prize-giving ceremony. 2 children are expecting to win the award. One child wins it, the other does not. Now, the child who hasn't won the award has to regulate his or her emotions, dealing with frustration, maybe a bit of anger, disappointment, and behave effectively. Effective behavior will include studying better later on. Another situation, imagine a child has a positive emotion. The child is selected as the school prefect. Now there may be elation, there may be a little bit of pride. The child has to deal with it and do his or her duties well. So there are certain indicators for emotions. A child should be able to sense what they're feeling. Yoga certainly helps this. This is called the 8th sense. Looking within, what am I feeling, what am I thinking, and translate it to action. So there are 2 randomized control trials. I think it has gone off. Okay. 2 randomized control trials. Just 1 point in this complicated slide. One study used 40 minutes of yoga every day. Another study used 4 minutes. Both of them were successful. So we don't need a lot of time to give yoga. What about academic performance? If a child is well self-regulated, will they do better in their exams? Will they deliver? So there is a lot of research to show that yoga helps attention, various aspects of attention. We have done so many studies. Kaivalyadhama has done studies, so many other institutions globally. Memory improves. Yes, we can say this. What about exam results? And this randomized control trial looked at grade point averages. Students who did yoga had better grade point averages than those who did not. But another aspect is reduced anxiety. So anxiety can come from so many situations. Nowadays, social media has resulted in students feeling this is not cool, that is, bullying has increased. Children are anxious in relation to their peers. Also exam anxiety, situational anxiety, long commutes, and so on. It can manifest as withdrawal, temper tantrums, somatic symptoms, and so on. Can yoga help? Yes. So a randomized control trial, 1 out of the many which I've picked out, looks at yoga for children with heavy anxiety disorders, helps them to control their negative thoughts. We know how anxiety in children can culminate in the ultimate disaster of suicide. So it is a good thing. And then sometimes the situation may be so bad that you need resilience and unimaginable stresses. We can take our children of migrant workers. Their situation is often very precarious. But across the socio-economic spectrum, you need resilience to cope with a variety of stresses, maybe single-parent families, parental illness, and so on. So we see here resilience. Why is it important? It helps children to see the challenges, to commit. Very often these children need to commit to getting their degree, to think positively, and to feel empathy and kindness. Crime reduction can be helped in this. Yoga does help resilience, this has been shown. I won't go into details, time is short. Yoga and behavioral problems. If you cannot manage self-regulation and other things, you can have behavioral problems. A child may manifest as very withdrawn or with temper tantrums, bullying others, worrying the teacher, and so on. Can yoga help for that? So these are the two ends. Yes, yoga can help. We did a study on university students, I think a year ago, our team, looking at can we manage excessive smartphone usage. And yoga practicing students are less likely to get into excessive smartphone usage and internet addiction compared to those who never practice yoga, which is a big thing nowadays. But also other benefits, less truancy, missing school and bunking and going off, less other bullying and so on. So I think our slides are, there's some problem, but anyway, let's go on with it. So moving on from behavioral problems, the other aspect is physical well-being. Who can question that yoga improves the physical well-being? So many studies on muscle strength, muscle endurance, flexibility, on vision, not only being able to see better, but perceptual sensitivity, hearing, lung functions, immunity. A lot of research, maybe not enough as we saw at COVID times, but a lot of research is there. And the better a child feels physically, the better there is their possibility of getting good exam results. So that's why we should see it in a wider spectrum of benefits. Coming to the last benefit that I have, classroom climate. This is like the buzzword internationally, and it should be here. By improving the child is the center of the classroom. Can we have a better classroom climate? That children get on better together, there's less bullying, children supporting each other. So the child who gets the least marks feels that, yes, I too can reach there and get the highest. Children who are from a poorer background don't have to feel apologetic because they're not as well dressed or they don't have as good uniform or as good a bag as the other child. Every child feels their place in the classroom. The teacher is respected. Children do not have a notion, yes, teachers are not very well paid. We are so well off at home, I don't need to respect them. These are some of the situations and problems faced by teachers and shared with us at Patanjali Yogpeeth when we did an extensive program for teachers. And lastly, children, teachers, and the environment. Can they keep it less cluttered, less litter? We all see the disadvantages of littering, more aesthetically pleasing. Yes. There are anecdotes that yoga can help, and this is an area where all the young, enthusiastic students here can really take it forward. Can we compare a school where yoga is introduced versus a school where yoga is not introduced? Are there benefits to the classroom climate? This, I think, would be very fascinating. If all these are the benefits, why is it not yet implemented? And these are very serious points. The first one is we feel that there is not enough time. When we talk of yoga as not just an academic factor in the child's life, but the whole person development, can time not be made? And also, if we look at the research evidence, it's not a large amount of time. There is this one study which has come out from the very proliferate publishers, the mindfulness group. Even 4 minutes every day consistently helps. It takes the child to that demeanor, that way of thinking. The second problem is that I would like to say that yoga associated with beliefs. I've seen this right from the very beginning. As a practicing Catholic, I really find that it is not something that we can do away with. Yes, there is a belief and a fear that yoga may be introducing an alien philosophy into my belief system. And this is a reality, not just in India. If we look at US, yes, there may be acceptability in the California strip, in the New York strip. But in the middle states, there is that conservative Christian belief system which makes people feel difficult to accept this. In the East Asia, yes, they don't find it easy. I'm increasingly spending time in Goa, and I found it difficult that people are a bit skeptical there as well. How should one do it? Some people say we should modify yoga to make it acceptable. I don't believe this. Yoga is firmly rooted in Hindu thought. This should be acknowledged, understood, and accepted. People can take what they like from it with that strong root and base. So this is what I would like to say very clearly, and I think this is an area we should all work on to take it further. Finally, some people say it is nothing more than physical exercise. Okay, we have 2 classes of physical exercise, 2 of yoga, and that's enough. Or we take yoga instead of physical exercise. How do we manage this? And I really come to the end. I hope it's within your time limit. Keep calm and use science. So that's what I firmly believe. Whoever has an argument about yoga, we don't modify yoga to make it acceptable. We leave out Om, we leave out Surya Namaskar, no. But we show the science, and that is the best way to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley, for this illuminating discussion and particularly highlighting the randomized control research methods to, establish the fact that students benefit through yoga in terms of self-regulation, managing their behaviors, besides just the physical well-being, improving the class climate, reducing phone addiction, and increasing their resilience. Thank you so much for grounding today's discussion in objective research to establish the benefits of yoga in school. Now I would request Dr. Srijan Singh to give his address.
Thank you, Manisha ji. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the members of Kaivalyadhama for completing a century of service to humanity through this institution. It's एक शताब्दी बहुत बड़ा काल होता है, एक बड़ा समय होता है, बहुत सारे लोगों का एफर्ट लगता है और आपके प्रेजेंट लीडरशिप जो है हमारे मित्र सुबोध जी, उनको विशेष प्रणाम भी, धन्यवाद भी और उनका सम्मान करना है। कितने शब्दों में मैं आपके कमिटमेंट को आई कैन नॉट कंटेन इट, तो लेकिन आई मस्ट से आई हैव सीन द कमिटमेंट विच गोज बिहाइंड दिस एंड ऑफ कोर्स स्वामी जी का आशीर्वाद और उनकी प्रेरणा है, इसीलिए ये सब संभव है। दिस प्लेस इज़ ब्लेस्ड एंड एज मेंबर्स ऑफ दिस प्लेस, इस जगह के आप लोग शिक्षक हैं या शिष्य हैं या किसी रूप में एसोसिएटेड हैं, तो आप भी ब्लेस्ड हैं, तो ये आपके लिए भी बहुत अच्छी बात है। योग हमारे राष्ट्र का एक धरोहर है और भारत की, ना सिर्फ भारत देश बल्कि भारत की संस्कृति और भारत का सिविलाइजेशन, उसके एक लॉन्ग सेंस, एक बड़े समय से निकला हुआ एक ज्ञान का प्रोडक्ट है जो हमने पूरी दुनिया को, संसार को दिया। और आज से नहीं, हम बहुत सैकड़ों साल से कर रहे हैं, लेकिन भारत पिछले 800 साल में चूंकि विदेशी शक्तियों के अधीन हो गया था, इसलिए हमारी सारी ज्ञान की जो शक्ति थी, जो हमारी ज्ञान की धरोहर थी, उसको एक ऑर्गेनाइज, एक संगठित रूप से हमने, जो हमारे अधिशासक लोग थे, चाहे वो अफगान तुर्क इन्वेडर्स हों या वो ब्रिटिश हों, उन्होंने उसको दबाया। और आज जब नया भारत निकल के आ रहा है और अलग अलग डिमेंशंस में, विज्ञान में हम चंद्रयान को साउथ पोल पे पहुंचा दिया, हम अगले साल तक, आप में से जो लोग यंग हैं, और एस्ट्रोनॉट्स के लिए योगा बहुत आवश्यक है, सो आप में से जो लोग एस्ट्रोनॉट बनना चाहें या एस्ट्रोनॉट्स को ट्रेन करना चाहें, आप ही में से कुछ लोग शायद भारत की टेक्नोलॉजी से अंतरिक्ष जाएंगे। 2025 या 2024 के एंड से हम इंसानों को भेजना शुरू कर देंगे भारत अपनी टेक्नोलॉजी से। सो इस नए भारत में, जिसमें एक नया सूरज उदय हो रहा है और सारे विश्व में प्रकाश फैला रहा है, योग उस प्रकाश का एक बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा है। आप संसार के किसी भी भाग में जाइए, शिरली जी जाती होंगी, उन्होंने बताया भी कि अलग अलग भागों में कुछ जगह है एक्सेप्टेंस और कुछ जगह हो जाएगा, लेकिन मैंने मिडिल ईस्ट में भी देखा है कि किस प्रकार से योग का एक्सेप्टेंस है। तो अगर भारतीय ये जो भारत का योग है वो पूरे भारत के लिए गौरव करने वाली एक चीज़ है, और सारा संसार भारत को इस चीज़ के लिए जानने जाएगा और आगे में बढ़ता जाएगा। ऐसा क्यों होता है? क्योंकि भारत की जो सभ्यता है वो कम से कम, अगर आप पाश्चात्य अनुमान से जाइए तो भी कम से कम 6000 साल पुरानी है। 6000 साल 7000 साल पुरानी हमारी सभ्यता है, इतना रिकॉर्डेड हिस्ट्री है। और इस 6-7 हज़ार की विश्व सिविलाइजेशन को अगर आप देख लीजिए, इजिप्शियंस को भी आप इंक्लूड कर लीजिए, तो उस सारी सभ्यता के 6000 साल के एग्जिस्टेंस में 800 साल का काल छोड़ दीजिए, बल्कि 800 भी नहीं, आप 500 छोड़िए, क्योंकि 1500 से लेकर के लगभग 1947 तक भारत एक डिक्लाइन के फेज में था। बाकी सारे समय यानी 500 साल छोड़ करके 5500 साल 6000 सालों में भारत दुनिया में सबसे नंबर 1 स्थान पे था। अर्थव्यवस्था में, चिकित्सा में, शल्य चिकित्सा हो, आयुर्वेद हो, एस्ट्रोनॉमी हो, मैथमेटिक्स हो, ट्रेड हो, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हो, गवर्नेंस हो, डेमोक्रेसी हो, किसी भी शास्त्र को आप ले लीजिए, हम प्रथम स्थान पर थे। हम दुनिया को सिखा रहे थे कि क्या करना चाहिए। तो ऐसी सभ्यता जो सभ्यताओं में 94% समय पर शीर्ष स्थान पर रही हो, उस सभ्यता के पास एक प्रिविलेज होती है एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग की। 2 तरह की लर्निंग होती है, एक्सपेरिमेंटल और एक्सपीरियंशियल। योग इज एन एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग, और एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग में भी एक्सपेरिमेंट होता है, लेकिन उस एक्सपेरिमेंट में जो रैंडम वेरिएबल्स होते हैं वो प्रकृति के भी होते हैं, नेचर के भी होते हैं। और हम अपने आप को बहुत इंटेलिजेंट समझते हैं इंसान, लेकिन नेचुरल इंटेलिजेंस इज फार हायर। आपके हर एक सेल में, आपकी बॉडी में करीब आधा ट्रिलियन यानी 500 बिलियन सेल्स हैं। 500 बिलियन मतलब 500 अरब कोशिकाएं। सेल्स कोशिका होता है ना, हाँ। सो 500 अरब कोशिकाएं हैं, सेल हैं। हर सेल के अंदर अप टू 2 मीटर लंबा डीएनए होता है, उसको ट्विस्ट करके सेल के अंदर पैक कर देता है। नेचर करता है, इंसान नहीं करते, नेचर करता है। अगर एक एक सेल से एक एक डीएनए निकाल करके मैं एंड टू एंड रख दूं, तो वो जो लेंथ होगी वो कितनी होगी आपको पता है? 500 बिलियन किलोमीटर्स। और वो इतनी होगी कि आप धरती के करीब 13 मिलियन यानी कि लगभग 1.5 करोड़ चक्कर लगा सकते हैं। इतना डीएनए मटेरियल आपके अंदर है, जिसके अंदर आपकी बॉडी का डेटा स्टोर्ड है। वो डेटा इतना है कि 1 ग्राम डीएनए में लगभग 2,20,000 लाख टेराबाइट डेटा होता है। 400 ग्राम की हार्ड डिस्क होती है जिसमें 1 टेराबाइट डेटा होता है ना। लेकिन 1 ग्राम के डीएनए में उसका 2 लाख लगभग 2.25 लाख गुना डेटा स्टोर्ड है। इतनी एफिशिएंट होती है नेचुरल इंटेलिजेंस। एंड योग और एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग से निकली हुई चीज़ें उस नेचर के वेरिएबल को अपने साथ लेके चलती हैं। आज का हमारा टॉपिक बड़ा रेलेवेंट है, बिकॉज एनईपी, नेशनल न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जो आ रही है, उसमें योग इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर लर्निंग। हम इसको करने जा रहे हैं और अगले कुछ साल में कर देंगे। और पिछली बार जब मैं आया था यहाँ पर, सुबोध जी ने बुलाया था, तब हम शुरू कर रहे थे। एनईपी बस शुरुआत पर था। अब एनईपी टेक ऑफ कर चुका है। पूरे भारत में इस समय एनईपी को कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट करे जाएं, बनाना कैसे, अब वो बन चुका। इट्स रिटन इन स्टोन, इट हैज़ टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड। तो कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं चैलेंज है, तो कोई भी नई चीज़ इम्प्लीमेंट करने का चैलेंज तो होगा ही, तभी तो वो नया है। तो नई चीज़ को इम्प्लीमेंट करना है, चैलेंजिंग ही होगा, बट वी ऑल टुगेदर हैव टू मेक इट हैपन। और चूंकि आज का टॉपिक स्कूल है, and with the Kalam Center, which Dr. Kalam and I co-started, we co-founded this in 2011, और उसके ज़रिए भी वर्क मोस्टली इन एजुकेशन। और लाखों बच्चों के साथ आई हैव वर्कड, अलग अलग वर्गों के, अलग अलग देशों के, अलग अलग क्लासेस के बच्चों के साथ वी हैव वर्कड। आई एम नॉट एन एक्सपर्ट इन योग, बट आई एम फेयरली वेल वर्स्ड इन बच्चों को क्या समझ में आता है और क्या अच्छा लगता है। तो एक तो शर्ली मैडम ने बता दिया बेनिफिट क्या है, विच इज़ वेरी क्लियरली एल्यूसिडेटेड, देयर आर 8-9 पॉइंट्स। अब ये बेनिफिट्स को हम बच्चों तक कन्वे कैसे करें? वाई शुड अ चाइल्ड इन क्लास 8th टुडे टेक अप योगा एज अ टॉपिक ऑफ इंटरेस्ट? सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन ये है। पहला, इसमें दो तीन स्टेप्स होते हैं। कोई भी, अगर आप स्पोर्ट्स को देखिए, कोई भी सब्जेक्ट को देखिए, कोई भी को करिकुलर सब्जेक्ट को देखिए तो व्हाई डज अ चाइल्ड पिक इट अप? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इट हैज़ टू बी क्रिएटिवली एक्सप्रेस्ड. अभी जो हम लोग आ रहे थे, सुबोध जी और मैं वॉक कर रहे थे, वी डिस्कस्ड स्लाइटली अबाउट दिस. एक्सप्रेशन इंपॉर्टेंट है. ये नहीं है कि योग मॉडिफाई करना है. शर्ली मैडम वाज एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. वी डोंट नीड टू चेंज. हमें सैनिटाइज नहीं करना है योगा को भारत से कि योगा भारत का नहीं है. यही तो हम करते आ रहे हैं और यही हमें नहीं करना है. Yoga is perfectly Indian. It belongs to our civilization. It is invented by our civilization, and it belongs. The intellectual property is ours. We are not charging you for it because we never charge anything good, but it will belong to us, and India should be credited. लेकिन उसका expression कैसा होना चाहिए? उसका expression creative होना चाहिए. We need to create better stories about it. Simple things like cartoons on yoga. क्या योग के ऊपर हमें cartoons बना सकते हैं? क्या योग को हम अपनी मूवीज में इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं? क्या हमारी जो मेन स्ट्रीम बॉलीवुड से, आपके तो बगल में बॉलीवुड है, क्या उन मूवीज में कैन वी शो एक्टर्स एंड एक्ट्रेसेस डूइंग योग इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग टू जिम? दे कैन गो टू द जिम एज वेल, बट दे कैन ऑल्सो डू योग. कैन दे डू दैट? दैट विल हेल्प, दैट विल इंस्पायर. वी नीड टू क्रिएट सुपर हीरोज हु कैन डू योग. यू नो, जैसे विदेशों में सुपर हीरोज अलग अलग, यू नो, बैटमैन डज ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ मार्शल आर्ट्स. कैन वी क्रिएट सुपर हीरोज विच कैन डू योग? Then children will get inspired. How can I follow my superhero? And can we also create real life heroes? Children pick up cricket because there's Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar in my generation. But who are the heroes I want to look up to? This is a yoga star. कौन है योग का स्टार? कौन है बच्चों के माइंड में जो बच्चों की लैंग्वेज बोल सके? और एक नहीं, कई चाहिए. Can we create those super heroes and real life heroes in children's mind who they would like to emulate, कि वो जैसे योग करते हैं मैं भी वैसे ही करूँगा? Can we use digital tools? I know कि digital detoxification is a part of the agenda, but zero mobile use तो बच्चे नहीं करने वाले. If we think we can take Instagram from children's life, then we will be mightily disappointed because वो हो ही नहीं सकता. But we can only regulate and control it, and we can more than control, navigate it. So create content. Can we create good content which can go on, say, Instagram Reels about yoga? Can we create good content on YouTube which is creatively expressed, has a, you know, music and a feel which a child would be attracted to? Can we do that? And one, in fact, two last inputs I have on this is that can we eventify it a little bit more? Can we create, जैसे क्रिकेट का IPL होता है, वर्ल्ड कप हुआ अभी, 2020 होता है, फुटबॉल का वर्ल्ड कप होता है, हर एक स्पोर्ट्स का होता है कुछ ना कुछ. म्यूजिक का भी होता है, म्यूजिक के टेलीविजन शोज होते हैं जिसमें कंपटीशन होता है. कैन वी क्रिएट engines and tools and places where such things can happen? A district level yoga competition, a state level IPL on yoga, you know, Yoga Premier League. Can we create that? Think of it. You are the people who will execute it. I can only give you ideas. But within the ambit of it, can we do that? And the best, you know, schools or the students get prizes, are televised, are podcasted. Can we do that? Then the children will find it worth taking. And the last point is, children, and beyond, you know, my observation, 9th, 10th के बाद, सारे बच्चों का focus होता है, IIT कैसे निकालेंगे, MBBS का टेस्ट कैसे निकालेंगे, या CA कैसे बनेंगे. Can we integrate the value of योग, योग की जो यूज़ है, हम कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम प्रिपरेडनेस में कैसे डाल सकते हैं? इफ़ यू आर एबल टू डू दैट, देन जो बच्चा जेई के लिए पढ़ता है वो योग को एज अ नेसेसरी टूल इम्प्लीमेंट करेगा. तब वो उसको उसकी यूटिलिटी दिखेगी, और तब योग विल बिकम, इट इज़ वेरी कूल बट विल बिकम रियली कूल. अभी वेरी कूल से रियली कूल लेके जाना है. बच्चे लेकिन एम्ब्रेस कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन हु हैप्पीली आर परफॉर्मिंग योग. I've also seen some parents now who are appreciating and even boasting that their children are good at yoga. But अभी वो fraction छोटा है. But समय के साथ जैसे जैसे NEP आएगा, we will be able to implement it in a bigger way. ये मेरा पूरा विश्वास है. और फिर हम इस भारतीय ज्ञान व्यवस्था को जो natural intelligence से linked है, और उस natural intelligence से linked है जो हमसे कहीं ज़्यादा intelligent है, we will be able to give it to not just our children, but also children all over the world, and build a better world. And I appreciate the effort of Kaivalyadhama towards this step, towards this conference also, and much more which Subodhji and his team has done in the times in the past, and will be continue to doing this in the future. So my best wishes and my gratitude to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srijan Palji, for highlighting the importance of using social media, creative animations, having real life heroes, as well as propagating yoga through media entertainment, theatre, and movies. I do have my doubt about eventifying yoga too much, because the whole competitive sports is actually based on winning and losing. The entire adrenaline rush is about which team has lost, and we could have seen the excitement in World Cup finals also. So how do you actually, a subtle, yoga is not a sport, yoga is a way of life, and how you actually eventify it without losing its intrinsic value? I think that would be one of the questions that I would be addressing to you, getting triggered from your discussion. I would now request Shirley ji also to come back on the stage, because for the round of questions. So would you like to respond to my question?
See, in life, I think one of the things I always resist the idea is that of a consolation prize in life. Prizes are not meant for consolation. Winning is not meant for consolation. I think when a person, or a child especially, does not win, and in a traditional sense win, what they do win is the idea that in life, not everything which you try, you will end up at the peak position, and you have to try and try again. So the idea that, if you create, say a competition on yoga, and whoever does the best yoga wins, and the person who does not do the best yoga is by default second, third, fourth, or even the last, that's fine. I think it's a great psychological learning in life that it's okay not to win sometimes, and many times. And that's what real life is. And this is what we are trying to do in schools now, which I find rather unwelcome, that every child who runs a race has to get a prize. No, let them not get a prize. The prize you get when you don't get a prize is the fact that in life you learn that sometimes you don't get a prize, and that's okay.
Thank you for your response. I'm sure there will be many more questions from the audience, especially the yoga teachers on this point. My next question to you is, Shirley, addressed to you. You said that we should not shy away from anchoring and acknowledging that yoga is embedded in Hindu thought. The question remains about the universal acceptance of yoga when one particular specific religious sect or belief tries to appropriate it aggressively. There could be issues then of acceptance across the globe, across numerous religious and social denominations and cultural concerns around it. So to give you a personal example, when I was in Harvard in 2015-16, and one of my friends, Pakistani civil servant, was my classmate. And she said that, Manisha, we were doing yoga earlier, and we were doing some, pranayams and other things. But suddenly now there is a kind of a concern in our country that, whether we should be doing it the way we were doing earlier. And so there are two sides to a coin. And I know I'm bringing up a slightly sensitive kind of viewpoint, but I think this is a seminar, intellectual seminar, where we should be discussing what might be the constraints in universal acceptance of yoga. So I think a nuanced approach about promoting yoga, but with a universal appeal, I think a very serious deliberation has to happen. And what do you think, how we can make it more universal and acceptable across different regions within the country, but also across the globe?
So, yeah, this is one of the most important questions. I think if we use the word appropriating, it's a little wrong, because you cannot appropriate what is yours. So if something is Indian, something is based in Hindu thought, in philosophy, it is, that is it. And you can't, there's no appropriating it, nor is there taking it wrongly, nor grasping it. It is there. I mean, that's all that you accept to begin with. is it incompatible with anyone else's beliefs? There are only two ways one can answer this, and this has to be done without excessive passion, annoyance, all the things which make a person react impulsively. So if a person uses rationality and science, there may be only two answers. In fact, I've been so curious about it since I've been wanting to go into this more deeply. I've actually gone back to my roots, being a practicing Catholic, and I'm studying theology in addition to my yoga research. And I have the answer. There's nothing in Christian spirituality to say that you should not do it. So I'm quite clear that's what I knew intuitively 30 years ago. And if we look rationally, intellectually, at least at this belief system, there's nothing wrong. I'm not sure about other belief systems. So there are only two ways. Understand your beliefs and approach it rationally. And if there is something, there may be something which says, don't accept others' belief systems, which sounds to me very counterintuitive for any spiritual following, but there may be, who knows, and we should be open to it. Then one can adapt yoga practice, not sanitize it, not say this is yoga, the other thing is not yoga, but have a conscious feeling that to make it acceptable, I'm making these modifications. And that, I would say, is the second and not so nice way of taking it. I would like to say, if one goes back to one's intellect, to the true spirituality, one would find nothing counter to accepting it. So I hope that answers.
Thank you. My next question to Dr. Srijan Palaji, and after that we open the house for discussion and questions from the audience, is that given that there are so many different schools of yoga and practitioners of yoga and now almost cult movements also, I would not like, even without being explicit, it may be understood. So how do we actually, and you're talking of the large scale need of creating digital content which has an appeal to the students, both the learners as well as the educators. How do you actually arrive at some kind of common, common consensus on what that content should be and how it should be disseminated without any kind of, debates and controversies?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, rather unexpected. Let me think about it. But I think two or three things are there. I think the Indian way, because we have more or less a consensus that yoga is an Indian product. The Indian way of expanding learning was through debate, was through, Shastrarth hota tha hamare yahan to. And it was okay to have a contrarian opinion over something even if it's well established. And that is also the scientific way. We still have on the screen, mere samne likha hua hai, use science, keep calm, use science. So I think the scientific way of doing that would be to have continuous evolution via debate. And we have to keep doing this. And I think institutions like Kaivalyadhama not only will emerge as centers of creating yoga, but also synthesizing the best practices of yoga from a variety of thoughts. And that is evolution. Yoga will also go through evolution like any other science has to go through. If you're admitting and accepting that it's science, then science will always evolve. And we have to accept that too. Number one is that. Number two is that I don't think, from my understanding, it's not that all schools of yoga are divergent. There's some commonality to it. There is, maybe 80-90% is actually common. It comes from the same inspiration which has been more traditional. There are different ways of making it more, let's say, conducive or easier to do for certain segments of people. And that is where I think different schools of yoga or different thoughts of yoga, or even in what you said in a contemporary sense, more like cult-like yoga, has come up because different people may need different kinds of presentation models to it. So I don't see a lot of issues with that unless someone starts to distort the basis of it, and I don't think that is going to happen because over 1 century Kaivalyadhama has done and yoga has been several centuries, and there's several documentation and experts to auto-correct it. Because agar us cheez ko bhatakna hota to ab tak bhatak chuki hoti. But now is a time when I think we have enough auto-correction which will happen in case it is needed. And in most cases I think it will lead to a synthesis and an evolution of a better yoga. And in some cases, it will lead to a form of yoga being evolved, which is subject specific. It is specific to the audience for which it is meant for. So I think that's how it will be. But as it goes with any, you are from the government, and you would know better. The way it will eventually be implemented is that there will be a course, right? And there will be a written down course which has to be followed by perhaps some of the students who are studying here will become those yoga teachers in schools, and they will have to follow a certain set of curriculum. And that is why sometimes having a curriculum makes sense, because it goes otherwise for a haywire thing. So I think that's the evolution. It will be interesting path to see in the next 5 years when yoga becomes far more pervasive in our schools across the nation, and how that, what that ramification challenges it throws out would be quite an interesting thing to look out for.
Thank you so much. And I just realized I asked you 2 questions, so as a moderator, I should be fair to Shirley and ask another question to her. So Shirley, being a neuroscientist, I mean, could you explain, and also somebody who has pioneered research in Patanjali Yoga Research Center, I would just like you to throw more light on, you know, as a neuroscientist, what are the scientific reasons? Of course, we know that children, that is the learning age, but some more concrete scientific, you know, understanding for this audience of why it is important to target school children for learning of yoga. And secondly, how do we actually mainstream yoga research along with teaching of yoga across the educational institutions?
I think the first question, you know, we've discussed 7 points and so on. Yoga is important for school children. The next question I think I like, how do you make it known to children? And I think that is also...
My question is not now targeted on benefits of yoga, because that is very well demonstrated in your presentation. It is about the age appropriateness. As a neuroscientist, if you could explain to this audience better that what is it that makes, you know, better targeting of school children at a younger age for yoga education. Benefits of yoga are very well understood. And then how do we integrate research into the educational institutions with learning?
Well, neurodevelopmentally, of course, the brain really develops in the last trimester of pregnancy up to 2 years. And that's before the child even goes to school. So that's when a lot of development happens in our brain. However, this continues till adolescence. So a lot is going on in the brain. Why not give these all important holistic inputs at that time, where it can not only shape academic excellence, but the whole person. So when so much is happening till the age of, say, 18, that's the time where you can make the maximum impact. How can we make the research available? I really think, and I think Srijan ji also said this, how do we make children know, why should I do yoga? It's not, of course, all the ideas are good, making it an event and making popular people practice yoga. But how does the research reach them? So there can be more, like a conference like this, targeting school children, making it much more simple, making it much more attractive, and giving examples in their life. Why should I self-regulate? Why should I be able to be resilient? And really give examples in a school child's life, so that they may want to pick it up. So one way, they can look upon it as something cool, something glamorous. 2, they can look at it as the thing to turn to when they need emotional support, emotional succor, and even to just feel good, is my feeling. Conferences and books, maybe.
Thank you. Now we open it for last 5-10 minutes for questions from the audience. Anyone from the audience? Please be brief in your question and also mention your name first. Introduce yourself and then their question.
I am Tanu, and my question is to Srijan ji, also to Shirley ji. In fact, both of you can respond to it. So when we are talking of bringing yoga into education, can we think of the goals of this education to be to develop focus when you said, for example, self-regulation is important. So can we think of bringing goals like focus, goals like tolerance, goals like acceptance as the quantified goals that this education needs to lead to? Because while right now our education says, all right, competition, I need to come first or second or have a rank in IIT, can my goal also be that I need to learn focus, wherever that focus leads me? So can that be the quantification via which we can bring yoga into schools?
Okay, so see, when you build an education system, there are two kinds of goals. One are the real goals, or you can say the underlying reasons. And the second is the manifestation, which is more like an ostensible thing which you have to show to a child. If I try to tell a child of class 7 today that the goal is being a conscious citizen or something else, that may not be the most conducive form for them to imbibe. They're not in that spectrum right now. You are, perhaps I am, perhaps everybody here is. But the way you convey to a child, just like a little child has to be told fairy tales, but the fairy tales are not there to tell them that there are monsters or something. The fairy tales are to tell them that there's good, and being good will actually help you be a more successful, happier person. And you tell them in a way, a depiction, which is obviously not true. But then, and as the child keeps growing up, the manifestation of what you want keeps changing. I think if you say focus, yes, focus, children want to be focused. But why should I be focused? So the focus, if I tell, you have to be just focused. Your argument ended at saying the goal should be focused. The child will ask, why should I be focused? What do I get out of being focused? Why can't I be unfocused? And that's a very perfect question for a child to ask. It's okay, all questions are good. Answers can be wrong, questions are not wrong. And child will ask you, मेरे को तो 30 सेकंड का ही focus चाहिए, that's all I need for an Instagram reel, and you have to explain why you need a more than that focus area. So you have to tell them that, if you're focused, this is what you'll be able to do. If this is your ambition, this is what you want to become, you have to be focused. I teach children to, do basic things like healthcare practices in general, and not yoga, but every other healthcare practice. Telling them that if you want to be an astronaut, you have to be healthy. If you don't eat an apple, you will not be an astronaut. If your eyesight is not perfect, you will not become an astronaut. If you're not able to withstand stress, how will you be an astronaut? Then the child says, मेरे को astronaut बनना है ना, इसलिए मुझे ये करना है. So that's a way of manifesting, and I think we should use that. It's powerful because the ecosystem is reinforcing it. The child is getting news कि Chandrayaan land हो रहा है. The child is getting a news that some astronaut is going. The child is seeing a movie like Interstellar where there's an astronaut in action. Now this memory of astronaut, every time it goes into the child's brain, he'll say, yeah, I should do yoga. I should do yoga because if I don't do yoga, I will not have focus, and if I don't have focus, I cannot be an astronaut. Astronaut is just an example. Depends. You can be an IS officer, for instance. I think they need to study for such a long time. Yoga is a great thing to go out and tell to all the children in the North Delhi campus area, where all these lakhs of youngsters are studying and focusing for hours, tens of hours, and they know it. You have to do it. But how will it help? That's what I was telling. If you can integrate yoga as a necessary or a useful tool to top in the JEE, it is useful. Let them have that. They will have those benefits which you want will come as a way of life, because it will be imbibed as part of their living space. So once you do that, then all your benefits come true and we build a better society, right? But let's start in a language which they understand, they love, and they like to emulate, okay?
Last question now, because it's 10:38 and I would like to, give time to the next session.
My name is SP Prabhakar. I am working in BARC Mumbai. My question is, because we are discussing the introduction of the yoga in the education system of the country, basically we find that our whole education system is, though the foundation is based on the holistic development of the child, like, overall growth, but majorly we find that the whole system has been hijacked by the concept of the getting marks. and all the subjects are being taught because a child can get the marks. That is why, you know, the systems like, you know, the teacher which gives care to us, or the respect we used to give to our teachers, is slowly declining. Whereas the marks percentage are increasing, is 97% cut off, 98% cut off. My question is that what is preventing us from making the academic curriculum with yogic practices as one of the subject where a child can fetch the mark, where a child can appear in an examination, he can get a mark, and then naturally when it will be the part of the system, then other benefits, the holistic approach, the profound benefit of the yogic knowledge, etc. will. Now we see that the children which are 17, 18, they are coming to the yoga domain only when they become capable of taking their own decision. But hardly any parents is saying a child of the, let us say, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that okay, now you have to study the yoga. So my question...
So sir, I think the point is taken.
Correct.
You would say that like we have other subjects, and correct me if I have misinterpreted. जैसे बाकी विषयों में मार्क्स लेके आप आगे जाते हैं, वैसे ही योग का भी विषय को एक रेगुलर विषय की तरह ट्रीट करना चाहिए. I'll direct your question to Dr. Shirley, if you are okay.
Well, of course, that's a very good idea, because then children, parents, everyone, educationists will take yoga much more seriously in the schools. But the problems are the problems we raised in implementation. One of the main problems I would see as coming in that is that already the curriculum is quite busy. Many people will feel children are already overburdened. Second one is, of course, related to the faith problem, which is a problem. India is a secular country, and some people may accept it, some people may not. And again, the solution for both of them, I believe, is the science.
So we were just warming up to, you know, more sensitive and more nuanced debate, but I think the paucity of time and you have the last, somebody's, okay. Quick one, please don't elaborate the question, be very brief.
The question will be very simple. As per all the intellectuals who have been making the policy, what will be the real ground reality achievement as per the intellectuals who are making the policies? Thank you.
Now I need elaboration on that. What do you mean? What will be the policy outcome? Is that you're saying,
yes,
what is the goal?
Yes. Ground reality in a real way, how it been reaching to the people and the students who are looking forward in that way.
So while we are still, the whole country is talking about how to implement it. We know what to do. We need to figure out, collect, and it's a great way. You know, what is happening with NEP is a fantastic thing, and I must appreciate the government of India for doing this. NEP, the government of India has come up with a sort of a vision document. This is our goal. Now, there are so many conferences happening all over India in higher and school education, where practitioners like you know, vice chancellors are there sometimes principals are there, and from different parts of the country are deliberating on how to implement it. And that's the how which you're talking about. So in my vision, how will NEP be implemented from the standpoint of yoga is this. I think yoga will eventually have to come as an optional subject, maybe not as a compulsory subject. I think Dr. Shirley is correct that we cannot impose it, because then there's resistance. And then it goes into a political domain. The moment, and I was resisting from saying that, but the moment it goes into a political spin, then, you know, it goes into television debates for 7 days, this will happen. And then yoga will be branded as a political tool. You don't want to do that. You want it to be an optional subject. Anybody who wants to take it should be able to take it. I also like the Bark scientist's suggestion. It can be an optional subject with marks. Like there are many optional subjects in class 11 today, which you can take and you cannot take as well. Humanities, science, within science there are different subjects you can or cannot take. Like that it will be implemented. I assume that with the great effort, collective effort of yoga practitioners and teachers, which schools will recruit and offer as subjects, yoga will be a subject. This will catch on because parents will start seeing the benefit other than yoga marks for it. Currently, you know, if two reasons why a parent would enlist a child in yoga. One, if yoga as a career is a great thing. or if yoga is a great thing in also building career as an alternative. For example, if the focus improves, the lady was talking about, focus improvement, trustfulness improves, mindfulness improves, which helps you in your career in general. That will start being visible, and maybe in 10 years, we will see a giant influx where just like parents today are happy to say, okay, you play cricket, you play, you join a badminton league or a badminton academy and so on. And yoga, because yoga is a lower cost, the best part of yoga is that any school can offer it. You don't need any stadium, you don't need any court, you don't need even maintenance. All you need, as everybody knows, Prime Minister also said, you need a small space with a mat, and that's it, and a good teacher. That's what you need. Eventually, that will start happening. I also see a lot of digital space, also happening. So there'll be e-learning, there'll be virtual reality-based learning. All those things will also start coming. And in 10 years, it'll catch, I think, as something which will be voluntarily taken up by students and parents and not forced down. Right? Okay.
Shirley, would you like to add on this?
I do think that's a very good idea to start with it as an optional subject with marks. That could be a good way of circumventing these major problems. That the problem with belief systems, and the second one being the curriculum being overloaded. Once there are marks, those children will take yoga, they won't take the other subject, so they won't be overloaded. Very nice comment, thanks.
So I think we close this discussion with a very, very interesting kind of actionable point for the other delegates to deliberate in their subjective, further sessions, that we actually create a good, interesting, attractive career path for those who are taking yoga as the subject. And secondly, to introduce yoga as one of the optional subjects with marks for better mainstreaming and acceptance of yoga. So this is the thought that has come from two of our panelists, and seems that it is endorsed by the audience. I have no... So with this interesting thought, I think we come to a close. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience, and I thank my panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this engaging and fruitful deliberation and setting an inspiring tone for this conference. I was reminded of what Swamiji said when Dr. Shirley Tellis spoke of the classroom climate. And Swamiji said this decades ago, it's nothing new under the sun, but we need to reinvent ourselves according to the time. So Swamiji said that education is not in the books, but in the atmosphere that is created that gives real education. So be it the immediate atmosphere or the virtual atmosphere, let us take conscious steps to create this creatively. And the practice of yoga does that. It creates this in the practitioner. We can see it in the aura, and that aura, that atmosphere spreads like a fragrance throughout. So thank you once again to our speakers. And we now have a short break for tea, so you can stretch your legs, take a conscious breath, and we meet again over here for our very first panel discussion, which will begin in 10 minutes. We also have our esteemed speaker with us, Ms. Suchitra Parekh, who will be willing to interact and sign her books. So please take this rare opportunity to meet with her in Sattva Cafe during this break. Thank you.